Hannah Wald, and I'm presenting on a problem-solving issue from Altman Specialty Hospital. This problem that I have been in the process of trying to find a solution for has came about throughout my time at working at Altman. I've worked at the Altman Specialty Hospital for a little over a year. Within this time, I've experienced quite a bit. From this experience and time spent there, I have seen firsthand many different instances where we could have been better. Not that we are performing poorly, but strategically we could have done better. To begin to solve this problem, I started learning about the OBTAIN process. OBTAIN is an acronym for a problem-solving process method. I will explain to you this process right now, and you can see on the screen the shorthand version of it. Alright, the O in the acronym OBTAIN stands for outlining the question. This is the first step in the problem-solving process. In this step, the problem that is wanted to be solved is presented. The B in OBTAIN is short for breaking down the issues. In this step of the process, the issues that are attached to the problem are presented. The letter T in this acronym is for testing the hypothesis. This is a time where the problem solver looks at the problem and reasons their way into creating a hypothesis for the solution of the problem. The A stands for analyzing the solution. In this step of the process, the problem-solving process is looked back upon thus far, looking at how these ideas were created and how they could be or were carried out. The I in OBTAIN is the step for imagining the solution. During this part, the process and the way the solutions were discovered are illustrated. Lastly, the final letter in the acronym OBTAIN is N. The N in OBTAIN stands for notifying the stakeholders in the development of an action plan. Through this problem-solving process, a solution is reached that can be shared to the stakeholders with high level of influence and who are the main decision makers in the process. So after the process, I began to work on applying my own problems at Altman to this problem-solving method. The first step in the OBTAIN process is the outlining the question. In this step, the problem is revealed and described. The very first thing I did was complete a problem-solving worksheet, which helped to narrow down what exactly my problem statement was to be. The problem statement ended up being, how can Altman Specialty Hospital conduct proper admittance to ensure the appropriate length of stay, while providing better and more improved care to our patients, but in a more efficient manner on the Altman LTAC. I saw these were issues on my floor, particularly through surveys completed by a few patients. Every patient who is discharged from our floor completes an inpatient survey. Here is an example of our survey that you guys can look at. This survey asks about their stay and more in-depth questions about that and how they were treated and if the clinical staff took great care of you and other questions relating to that. The admittance problem on our floor has to do with the fact that we are admitting people who do not stay the complete 30 days or stay over that allotted time period. If a patient stays over or under that amount of days, the hospital eats the costs. It also becomes a more expensive stay for the patients. We get all those surveys back, and we also get other surveys about our call light response time, and that is a huge issue that needs to be worked upon, and it's one that I have looked at in this process. So, with the problem clearly stated, I was ready for the next step. The next step in this problem-solving method is breaking down the issues. In that step, I sat down and looked over my problem statement and thought about what my potential issues could be, or what potential bumps in the road there could be in that process and with my problem statement. In this problem, the issues that coincide with the problem statement are described. The problem is dissected and the issues of the problem are wrote down. This part of the OBTAIN process is important because the issues are looked upon early in the problem-solving process. The three main issues I came up with, which you can see up here, are will the management team be on board, is it offensive, and is it within budget? The first question, will the management be on board? This is an issue because fixing this problem will not be possible without the support of the management team. Through them, all things get solved and passed along. To make anything happen, they have to be the ones to approve it. And the second question, is it offensive? This is a potential issue because individuals on the team for admitting and accepting patients to our floor could feel offense to my bringing up that they are causing budget problems, and other issues. I do not want to cause any other extra issues in that department. I'm only bringing it up so that it's something that can be fixed for the future. My third question is it within budget? This is always the question that every individual who is trying to solve a problem will have an issue with. Everything at the hospital seems to be done in a way to stay within the budget, or can we cut the budget to make this work? But this is an issue that could be diverted if the stakeholders can see that by solving these problems there will be a benefit financially in the future. So with those issues out on the table, my next step is to create and test a hypothesis. What is a hypothesis, you guys may ask? A hypothesis, defined by the dictionary, is a proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. Basically, you look at the problem you are trying to solve and make a decision if you think your solutions for solving this problem could work, or if the problem you are looking at can be solved. In this step, to test the hypothesis, I created a hypothesis tree, as you can see on the screen. This took my problem statement and created possible solutions to try to solve the problem. So this is an example of mine that has to do with the admitting part of my problem statement. I wrote on there, how can Altman Specialty Hospital conduct proper admittance to ensure the appropriate length of stay? I broke it down into proper admittance guidelines will ensure appropriate length of stay, which could be broken down into have a guideline list to help choose the patients, and have guidelines which will help the patients which are bad enough on the floor. Another possible outcome would be proper training to those who are the ones choosing our patient. To break that down even further, we could have training to ensure the proper patients, and the training can help those who are choosing our patients understand which patients to choose. And the third would be to teach all employees how to treat and help our patients so they can heal faster and that they aren't there for so long. So we can have education for our success, and then have a community awareness that helps our organization. So with my hypothesis in place, I can move to the next step, which is analyzing the solution. To do this, I conducted a research review on my different possible solutions. In this research review, the problem was looked at and the possible solutions were given. There were multiple credible articles referred within the article that attributed to finding the possible solutions of the issue. The research review helped to clarify the problem that was being looked upon, and then assess the information that was researched and how it related to the problem. And so from there, I went to the next step of the problem-solving process, which would be imagining the solution. In this step of the obtain process, tools and other ways of the solution for the problem are assessed and they're described. The tool used to select the solution to the problem with Altman Hospital was the paired choice matrix. And this will show the matrix. To utilize this tool, there has to be multiple solutions being looked at. In this particular paired choice matrix, there are 4 different possible solutions being looked upon. Through this tool, all 4 of the solutions were compared and contrasted, and the solution was decided. So my 4 different possible outcomes would be the number of aides on the floor, having an assignment for the number of aides, having a patient advocate, and creating a call-out station. And then those are each listed across the board, and then you compare and contrast the 2 till you figure out which one has the best solution. The call-out solution was my number 1 on this chart. And then after that was completed, I moved on to the last step in my process, which was notifying the stakeholders and creating an action plan that wraps up the process. In this step of the Obtain tool, there is an action plan created. When developing an action plan, it is very important to describe every part of the plan to solve the problem. The action plan starts at the very beginning and goes to the end. This plan divides the solution into smaller parts to show the process of how it is to be solved. It shows a timeline of when tasks are to be started and finished. and then it shows a place to look back and review the progress that has occurred and make sure that everything is still on track. The action plan is the place where everything that was prepared comes together to actually solve the problem. Once the action plan is created, it can be shared with the stakeholders of the operation. This is usually the first step of the action plan. This plan needs to be presented to the stakeholders and include visuals and presented in a way that the stakeholders become interested and want the problem solved. So, this is my action plan. My steps were the first to list the qualities wanted in the call light system, ask others what qualities they would like to see in that system, complete the final list, then create the call light system, and then from there present the solution and action plan to the management team at Allman Specialty, and then when approved, test the system in maybe one of the rooms and see how people respond to it, and then if it's enjoyed, possibly install it onto our floor, and then after that look back and review and make sure everything is still in working process. And through each of these systems, I was looking at who would be responsible for it. Most of them I was responsible, but also the LTAC staff could be involved in the management system. And most of this is done within a year. The first couple would be in the next couple months, and then throughout the year would be complete. And this was done on a unlimited budget, so this could be probably a pretty expensive endeavor, but it could possibly work really well. And then, so my solution at the end of this was, you can see on the screen that the solution that was decided upon was to have trained managers to select the incoming patients, to have some sort of system that coincides with the call lights on the floor to help the patients know that they are not the only one on the call light, and if they are, have something to show them that others are being helped at this time. This way the patient and or the family could possibly understand why they're waiting. And then, for my conclusion, utilizing the obtain process while solving a problem is a great idea. This process helps to get to the root of the problem and figure out the best solution. I hope that this solution will help the Allman Specialty Hospital in the future. Now, well, these are my references. And then, is there any questions?
Yes, Hannah, I have one. Do you think this process would work for every problem?
I do, thank you. I do believe this process could work for every problem, because this process really takes you through every part of the problem and helps you create a great solution or solutions for the problem.
I also have a question, Hannah. How do you think this would impact the Allman Specialty Hospital?
I think it'll impact everyone immensely. I think we'll be able to provide better patient care, which will make both the patients and the patients' families or friends happier. And also with better patient care, we'll have better patient outcomes. And with these better decisions made, we'll have, with the admission, we'll have a better budget and not costing the patient and or the hospital extra money. Thank you for listening to my presentation.